8 phrases parents say that can affect a child's emotional well-being. For many children, parents are the first people they turn to for safety and guidance, and much of how a child learns to understand the world and themselves is shaped by the words they hear at home. From an early age, children begin to form their sense of identity through everyday interactions, which means that even small, seemingly harmless phrases can carry more weight than adults often realize. Research shows that emotional harm in childhood is far more common than many people think, and reports from the Children's Bureau of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services indicate that millions of children experience emotional neglect or harmful verbal interactions every year. In many cases, this harm does not come from physical actions, but from repeated statements, tones of voice, and the unspoken messages hidden within everyday words. These messages may not feel significant in the moment, but over time, they can quietly shape how a child views themselves and their place in the world. Experts explain that phrases children hear frequently while growing up can influence their self-esteem, emotional security, and self-image well into adulthood, even when parents do not intend to cause harm. First, comparative statements, such as, "Why can't you be like someone else?" can quietly make a child feel as though they are not good enough. When children hear this repeatedly, they may begin to believe that their worth depends on how closely they measure up to others, rather than on who they are as individuals. Over time, this pattern of comparison can contribute to low self-confidence and a constant need for external validation. Second, phrases like "you're too sensitive" may cause children to doubt their own feelings and question whether their emotional reactions are valid. When emotions are dismissed again and again, children may learn to push them aside instead of understanding them, which research has linked to difficulties recognizing and expressing emotions later in life. Third, saying "because I said so" without explanation can discourage children from asking questions or sharing their thoughts. Over time, this may teach them that their opinions do not matter, weakening their trust in their own ideas and reducing their willingness to communicate openly. Fourth, statements such as "you're embarrassing me" can make children feel responsible for their parents' emotions, even when those emotions are not within the child's control. Experts note that this sense of responsibility can increase feelings of shame and contribute to social anxiety, especially in situations where children feel they are being watched or judged by others. Fifth, generalized remarks like "you never do anything right" do not address a single behavior, but instead target a child's sense of self. Hearing this repeatedly can create a deep fear of making mistakes and reinforce a belief that failure defines who they are, leading some children to avoid trying new things altogether in order to protect themselves from criticism. Sixth, a phrase like "I do everything for you" may sound like an expression of sacrifice, but for a child, it can create a heavy sense of guilt. Children may begin to feel that their needs are a burden and that asking for support comes at a cost, which can later make it difficult for them to set healthy boundaries or advocate for themselves. Seventh, telling a child "stop crying" sends the message that their emotions are inconvenient or unacceptable. Instead of learning how to process difficult feelings, children may learn to suppress them, and studies suggest that this pattern can be linked to difficulties recognizing and expressing emotions later in life. And finally, phrases such as "you'll understand when you're older," even when said with good intentions, can make children feel dismissed in the moment. When this happens repeatedly, children may stop sharing their thoughts and emotions altogether, believing that their experiences are not worth acknowledging. Specialists emphasize that verbal and emotional experiences during childhood can shape self-image and relationships in adulthood in powerful ways. If some of these phrases sound familiar to you, you are not alone, as many people grow up hearing similar messages. This video is not meant to blame parents, but to raise awareness, because awareness can be the first step toward change. If you think this video could be helpful to someone, feel free to share it. And thank you for watching.